I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am. My name's Matt, and for the past 7 years I believed I had everything I needed: loving wife, a good job, a comfortable life. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were solid. That's what made this hit so hard. My wife, Lisa, always had a bit of a bitchy streak, but she was clever enough to hide it well. Still, I never really suspected she'd do something like this. Not until that night when everything changed. It started with the usual signs that I now realize were red flags. She became a little more distant over the last few months, less affectionate, more dismissive when I tried to talk about future plans. She'd cancel dates last minute, always with some excuse about work or being tired. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was stressed or just busy. Honestly, I was trying to keep it together, especially since losing my job a few weeks ago. That was a blow. I'd been with the same company for 5 years, and suddenly I was unemployed and scrambling for answers. But then I started noticing little things. Her phone becoming more secretive, hiding it when I entered the room, changing her password. She'd leave her messages open for only a second before locking the screen. I thought maybe she was just trying to be cautious, but deep down I felt something was wrong. The worst part, I couldn't shake this gnawing suspicion that she was hiding something from me. And then came the night I found proof, something that shattered my world. I was lying in bed, scrolling through my own phone, trying to distract myself from the hell that was my career, when I saw her messages pop up in my notifications. They weren't from a friend or a coworker. No, they were from her, Lisa, and they were suggestive, intimate. I saw her texting someone named Chris with a flirty tone, talking about meeting up, sharing secret jokes, and even discussing sex. My stomach sank. I couldn't believe what I was reading. How could she lie to my face every day? How could she pretend everything was fine when she was out with someone else? I sat there, stunned, my hand trembling as I stared at her words. My mind raced. What the hell had I missed? How long has this been going on? I couldn't even process it all at once. I felt a mixture of shock, anger, and heartbreak. I wanted to confront her right then, but I didn't want to do it without thinking. I needed to plan, to understand what I was dealing with. I closed her messages, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. This wasn't just a fling, it was something serious. She was cheating on me with my best friend, Jake. That realization made it worse. Jake, someone I'd trusted, someone I considered a brother. It was like the ground had opened beneath me and I was falling fast. I didn't sleep that night, just lying there staring at the ceiling, trying to gather my thoughts. The pain was overwhelming. All the years of trust, of building a life together, suddenly seemed so fragile. How could she do this? Did I mean nothing to her? Did she ever love me? These questions haunted me, but one thing was clear. I couldn't ignore this anymore. I had to confront her, even if I was terrified of what I might find out. I knew, somehow, that this was just the beginning of something much darker. The next day I woke up feeling like a zombie. My mind was numb, but the anger still simmered just below the surface. I knew I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. I had to face her, had to hear her version, even if I already knew the truth. I decided to wait until she got home from work, planning to confront her then, but my heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I kept rereading those messages from last night, trying to make sense of it all. When she finally walked through the door, all I could see was her smile, fake, forced, like she didn't have a care in the world. She immediately started bitching about her day, about how she was tired, how she didn't want to talk about drama. I felt a surge of rage rise up. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, and then I just blurted out, "Who the hell is Chris?" Her eyes widened for a second, and then she scoffed. What are you talking about? I don't even know any Chris." She crossed her arms, acting innocent, like I was crazy. I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages. Her face instantly turned red, either from anger or shame, I don't know which. She looked at the screen, her lips trembling, then quickly tried to brush it off. "Oh, that," she said, trying to sound nonchalant. "It's nothing. You're overreacting as usual, just some guy I met last week, nothing serious. We're just, talking, seeing if there's anything there, but it's not like I'm cheating or anything." I couldn't believe her lies. She was spinning some story that made no sense. I felt my fists clenched. "You've been lying to me this whole time, haven't you? While I was out trying to find a new job, you were out with him, Chris, and possibly Jake too. How long has this been going on?" She rolled her eyes, scoffing again. "Oh please, you really think I'd cheat on you? You're being paranoid. I've been stressed about losing my job, that's all. And that message, yeah, I was joking around, nothing more. You're twisting everything. You always do." I stared at her, feeling like my head was about to explode. How could she be so dismissive? So dismissive of what she did? Like it was nothing. It was like she was trying to gaslight me, making me doubt what I saw, what I read. I pushed her further, asking about Jake, about their conversations, wanting to hear her deny everything, but she just kept making excuses, saying it was all innocent, that I was just jealous. Inside, I was falling apart. Every word she spoke, every lie she spun, made me feel more betrayed than I thought possible. My mind kept circling back to the messages, the secret meetings, the nights she must have been out, lying to my face while I was trying to hold everything together. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so stupid to miss all of this. And then in a flash, everything shifted. She suddenly got angry, started yelling at me, calling me crazy and paranoid, saying I was overreacting, that I was just insecure, that she deserved better than just being accused of cheating. It was like a switch flipped, her bitchy attitude firing up, her words sharp. I felt like I was being attacked, and honestly, I felt like crying. I'd never seen her so venomous before. It was like she was trying to break me, to make me doubt myself entirely. I knew then that there was no point in arguing with her anymore. She wasn't going to admit anything, not without a fight. I just told her to leave, to get out of the house, and that I needed some space. She huffed and puffed, then stormed out, muttering about how I was crazy and insecure, threatening to ruin everything. As she left, I sat on the couch, clutching my head, feeling broken and furious at the same time. That's when I realized how deeply I'd been manipulated. She'd lied so convincingly, played the victim, all while hiding her affair. And Jake, my best friend, was involved in this mess too. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. I knew I had to do something, but what? How do you come back from something like this? I was stranded in a sea of confusion, trying to figure out my next move while holding onto the tiniest shred of dignity I had left. After she left, I just sat there in silence, staring at the door like it was the portal to some alternate universe I didn't belong in anymore. My mind was racing a million miles an hour. I kept going back to those messages, to the way she lied so effortlessly, like it was nothing. I felt humiliated, angry, devastated, every emotion colliding inside me all at once. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew us. But now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a cheat, a manipulator. I knew I couldn't just let this slide. I had to find out exactly what was going on. I started digging through her phone, trying to find any other signs, any more evidence. I found other messages, not just with Chris but other guys too, flirty, suggestive, downright inappropriate. It was worse than I initially thought. She'd been sneaking around for months, probably longer. I was furious at myself for missing it, for being so blind, but more than anything, I was furious at her. How could she do this to me? How could she betray everything we built, everything I believed in? That night I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, heard her lies, imagined her in the arms of other men. The betrayal was almost physical. I kept replaying that moment when I confronted her, her dismissive attitude, her mocking tone. It burned inside me. The feeling of being played like a fool, of being utterly disposable, it was the worst pain I'd ever felt. I kept asking myself if I should tell someone, anyone, maybe my friends, maybe my family, but I hesitated. Part of me still clung to the hope that maybe I was wrong, maybe she'd deny everything and I'd be back to normal. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't something I could just brush off. By morning, I decided I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. I needed to talk to someone, get some perspective. I reached out to my brother, David, who's always been the voice of reason in my life. I told him everything, what I found, how I felt, what I suspected. He was furious, just like me. He told me to confront her again, to get the truth out of her, but I wasn't sure I could face her right now. I felt so betrayed, so shattered. How do you trust someone again after they've lied so blatantly? How do you look at your wife the same way, knowing she's been lying and cheating right under my nose? But I knew I had to decide. Do I let her keep lying and hope it all goes away? Or do I confront her again, push her for answers, and decide what to do next? The truth was, I was already planning my next move. I wanted to catch her in a lie again, to see if I could corner her or if she'd try to manipulate me even further. I needed to know just how deep this rabbit hole went, and I wasn't going to stop digging until I had the full story. I also started thinking about Jake, my best friend, the one who I trusted more than anyone. I couldn't believe he'd do this, sleep with my wife, betray us both. That betrayal cut even deeper than Lisa's, if that was possible. I wondered if he ever cared about me, if any part of him felt guilty. I needed to confront him too, but I wasn't sure how or when. Right now, all I wanted was some clarity. I needed to know how far this all stretched, how many lies I'd been living under. As much as I was angry, a part of me was also hurting badly. The loneliness I felt, the sense that I'd lost everything I cared about, it was almost unbearable. I kept asking myself if I should just walk away, forget her, forget Jake, and rebuild from scratch. Or should I fight, try to salvage what was left of the life I thought we had? Honestly, I didn't have an answer yet. All I knew was that I couldn't ignore this anymore. I had to face the truth, no matter how brutal it was. The following days were the hardest of my life. I spent most of my time pacing around the apartment, trying to piece everything together. Every time I closed my eyes, I replayed her words, her sneering face, the texts I had uncovered. The betrayal was like a weight pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I knew I couldn't let her get away with this. She had to face what she did, and I had to decide what I was going to do about us. I knew I needed to talk to Jake. I couldn't just let him walk free after doing this to me. I waited a few days, trying to calm down, but my anger only grew. I finally reached out to him, asking if we could meet up somewhere private. He was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed. We met at a quiet cafe away from everyone's eyes. When I saw him that day, all the emotions flooded back. He looked nervous, even guilty. I could tell he felt the weight of what he'd done. I didn't waste time. I told him exactly what I knew, showing him the messages. I saw the guilt in his eyes, but he still tried to deny everything at first. "It's not what it looks like, Matt," he said, trying to sound convincing. "I swear we didn't mean for it to happen. Lisa been stressing and things just happen. It's not like I planned it." That was a lie, I knew it. I felt the betrayal deep in my bones. I told him I didn't care what his excuses were. "You broke the code of trust, Jake. You're supposed to be my friend. And my wife, she's been lying, cheating, playing me for a fool." The words felt like daggers. I didn't know if I was more angry at him or her, but I knew they both deserved to hear how deeply they'd hurt me. He looked down, silence heavy between us. Then he finally admitted that he'd been texting Lisa for months, that they'd been secretly meeting behind my back. He said he was sorry, but honestly, I didn't want his apology. I just wanted him to know how much he'd screwed up. I told him I needed some time to think, that I wasn't ready to forgive him or her yet. We parted ways that day, and I went home feeling even more lost than before. Back at the apartment, everything felt colder. The walls, the furniture, even the air. I felt like I was living someone else's life. I couldn't believe I'd let someone get so close, only to have them betray me so completely. I started contemplating my options. Should I stay and try to fix this mess? Or should I just cut my losses and leave? Every ounce of my mind told me to walk away, to find some peace away from the chaos. But part of me also felt like I owed it to myself to fight for what's right. That night, I sat alone, staring at my phone, trying to decide whether I should confront Lisa again or just cut her out of my life forever. I knew she'd try to deny everything, accuse me of being paranoid or jealous. She was good at twisting words, making me doubt myself, but I wasn't going to let her do that anymore. Deep inside, I knew that her lies had stripped away the trust I once had. No matter what she said, I knew the truth now, and I couldn't unsee it. I wanted to believe there was a way back from this, some miracle that would make everything okay again. But I also knew better. Sometimes the damage is just too deep, and the only way to heal is to walk away. I was exhausted from the emotional roller coaster, worn out from the lies, the betrayal, the heartbreak. But one thing was clear: I had to make a choice soon. The question was, which one? Stay and fight for a ruined marriage, or leave and try to rebuild my life from scratch? I didn't have an answer yet, I knew I couldn't keep living in this chaos forever. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and overwhelming thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been handed a raw deal, like the person I trusted most in this world had been secretly tearing my life apart, piece by piece. Every time I saw her, I'd catch myself hesitating, wondering if she was lying again, trying to come up with some new excuse. My mind kept circling back to that moment when I found her messages, the explicit texts, the secret meetups. It was like a betrayal on top of betrayal. I knew I had to act. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, not knowing if she'd continue to lie or if I was just fooling myself into believing she was going to change. I decided to confront her again, but this time I wanted to do it on my terms. I set up a time to meet her at the house. No more sneaking around, no more hiding. I was going to hear her out, see her reaction, and decide what to do next. I wanted the truth, raw and unfiltered. When she arrived, she looked irritated, like I was the one making everything complicated. I was calm but firm. "Lisa," I said, "I've had enough of the lies. I know about Chris, about Jake, about everything. I want to hear it from you. Tell me what's been going on. Don't lie to me again." Her eyes flickered with defiance, but then she rolled her eyes and snorted like I was just some insecure fool she could manipulate. "Oh, stop," she snapped. "You think I'm lying. You think I'm cheating. Honestly, you're just jealous because I don't want to deal with your crap anymore. You lost your job, you're insecure, and now you're just looking for someone to blame." Her words hit like a slap. She was trying to gaslight me again, making it seem like I was the problem, like I was the one messing everything up, but I wasn't buying it. I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages again. "This isn't just some innocent flirtation, Lisa. This is real. You've been sleeping with Jake and talking to Chris behind my back. How do you explain that?" Her face twisted into a sneer and she scoffed. "You're paranoid. You're insecure. All this because you lost your job. Honestly, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. You're just bitter because I put up with your pathetic jealousy anymore." That was the moment I realized she was never going to admit anything. She was going to keep spinning her lies, pretending everything was fine. I felt my blood boil. I thought about all the times I tried to fix things, to be patient, to believe she'd change. But she was just playing me, playing the victim, acting like she was the innocent one in this whole mess. I knew I could no longer trust her, no matter what she said or did. Without thinking, I told her to leave. "I can't do this anymore," I said. "You're not the person I thought you were. I want you out of my life now." She looked furious, screaming at me, calling me every name in the book like I was the one at fault. But I didn't care. I was done. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay when it clearly was. I packed some of my things that night, feeling like I was finally taking control of my shattered life. As she stormed out, I sat alone in the apartment for a long time, staring at the door she just slammed. Behind her, the silence was deafening. I felt emptier than I ever had before. All those years, all that trust down the drain. I wondered if I'd ever be able to rebuild, if I could ever trust someone again. Honestly, I didn't know if I even wanted to. Right now, all I wanted was to breathe again without feeling like I was suffocating under a pile of lies and betrayal. That night, I made a decision. I was going to cut ties with her completely. No more excuses, no more pretending. I needed to focus on myself, figure out what I wanted from this life. I realized I had been so caught up in trying to hold everything together that I hadn't stopped to think about what I needed, what was best for me. Moving forward, I knew I had to let go of the past, no matter how much it hurt. It was the only way I could start healing, even if it felt impossible right now. My trust was broken, but I was still standing. That was enough to keep me going, at least for now. The days after she left were a whirlwind of mixed feelings. Sometimes I'd wake up feeling like I finally had some clarity, like I'd just taken the first step toward reclaiming my life. Other times I'd lie in bed, replaying everything, her lies, her betrayal, the whole damn nightmare. It was like my mind was trying to make sense of it all, but nothing really made sense anymore. I felt numb most of the time, like I'd been hollowed out from the inside. I decided to cut off all contact with her. No calls, no texts, no nothing. I knew I needed space to heal, to figure out what came next. I also started seeing a therapist. Honestly, it was one of the best decisions I'd made. Talking to someone who was outside of this mess helped me process the betrayal without feeling like I was losing my mind. She helped me understand that, despite how deep the hurt was, I deserved better and that I wasn't the loser here. She was. I also reached out to my family, especially my brother David. I told him everything and he was furious, more furious than I'd expected. He called her every name in the book, told me to forget her, to find someone who actually cared about me. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I could rebuild my life. Maybe I could move past this even if it still hurt like hell today. The truth is, I don't have all the answers. I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again or if I'll ever look at my marriage the same way. But I do know that I'm stronger than I thought. I learned that sometimes the only way to survive heartbreak is to accept it, face it head on, and then let go. I realized that betrayal, no matter how deep, doesn't have to define me. I'm not my mistakes and I'm not my wife's lies. Looking back, I've learned a lot. Never ignore those red flags because they're usually there for a reason. Trust is fragile and once it's broken, it's damn hard to fix. But I've also learned that life goes on, even after the worst betrayals. You can rebuild from ashes, even if it feels impossible right now. The pain will fade and you'll find new strength you didn't know you had. So if there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this. Don't stay in something that's hurting you. Don't let anyone manipulate or betray you into thinking you're at fault. And most of all, remember that the path to healing isn't straight or easy. It's messy, it's painful, but it's worth it. Because in the end, you're the only one who truly knows your worth. And no betrayal, no matter how deep, can take that away from you.